Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun video, I am hopefully going to be sparking your guys' imagination and encouraging you guys to think outside of the box when it comes to scroll saw woodworking patterns and designs out in your garage or workshops. You guys know when I do a traditional scroll saw woodworking pattern, I do the project from start to finish, and then at the end of the video, I like to talk about the options and versatility for each and every pattern you come across. As long as I have been scroll saw woodworking, I can still see potentially different uses for each and every scroll saw pattern I come across other than its intended purpose, if that makes any sense. You can enlarge patterns, you can shrink them down, make them into ornaments, make them bigger for a piece of wall art. You can even go above and beyond and make them huge for some yard decor, you know, for seasonal stuff like Halloween and Christmas. That is the purpose of today's video, and I hope it maybe helps some new scrollers see options and versatility with scroll saw patterns. And since we are in the spring and Easter months, and Easter is fast approaching here in 2025, I have selected a simple puzzle design from the 300 Christian and Inspirational Patterns for Scroll Saw Woodworking. This is the second edition, revised and expanded by Mr. Tom Zeig. So thank you for the amazing book. It is a big book packed with a ton of Christian and religious style patterns ranging from beginner, intermediate, and advanced scroll saw patterns, so anyone can pick up this book and make a quick design out of it. The pattern I have selected is a simple puzzle design, as I said, and it's located on page 128, and it says angel design, like a little layered angel puzzle, but I have always called it a layered cross design because it does have a cross-like appearance. And this is one of the designs that I will prep 10, 12, 15 of to take with me to do live scroll saw demos with, because it's a nice little simple project that doesn't take up much material. I can usually prep a bunch of them out of scrap material and do live demos with them, and then I can also give them away to people who might be interested in scroll saw woodworking, just to have a nice little takeaway gift. And hopefully, with it being a cross design, it can inspire some people as well. I've got several of the pattern photocopied and attached to our material with clear packing tape. You can see the patterns there. And the material I'm going to be using is some 3/4 inch pine shelving board that I have milled down. I love using pine to teach with over here on the platform because it's readily available in my area. It's not that expensive, and I can pick it up relatively close to home, if that makes any sense. And it sands, shapes, contours, it takes paint well, it takes stain well. So again, a very nice material to teach with visually over here on the platform. But by all means, as I always say, as another option, you can always use exotic or hardwoods with each and every project you come across. You can see here the pattern is prepped in several different ways, and the scroll saw work I am going to show you that is relatively simplistic in today's project. It's just 3 little cuts to release the layered cross design there from the waste wood. The fun part of this video is going to be when the scroll saw work is done and we finish this simple pattern in a few unique and different ways. So let's move the camera and get started. And since all of the prep work was complete, we jumped right into scrolling over at the Rikon scroll saw. And for all of the scrolling on all of the parts in today's video, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through all of the pieces exceptionally well with minimal chip out. I'll be cutting out 4 of the designs here in today's video, and you'll see all of those cuts in the time-lapse portion. We are pretty much done here with the first layered design here once I come back around to the other side. And once I get it done, I will set it aside and I'll pick up another one, and I'll switch camera angles to hopefully give you guys a better perspective to what I am doing. You can see that I'm beginning with the center portion and working my way outward, setting the pieces aside as I get them cut out. And the book that this pattern is found in calls this a layered angel puzzle, but I have always called it, in the way it looks to me, is a cross, so I call it a layered cross puzzle. For one of the styles I'm showing you in today's video, I will need a small base, so I'm going to quickly cut it out here from scrap 3/4 inch pine, just a basic circle, and we're ready to begin with the third one here. And if you guys would like to try the pattern itself, it's available in the 300 Christian and Inspirational Patterns for Scroll Saw Woodworking book by Fox Chapel Publishing, and you can get the book at foxchapelpublishing.com. But we are already almost done with the third one here, and I'll once again switch the camera angle and we'll begin cutting out the fourth and final design. And for this one, I did drill a pilot hole for the way I wanted to finish it visually. Again, today's video hopefully will help spark your guys' imagination as to how you approach each and every scroll saw woodworking pattern and project you come across. Each and every pattern for the scroll saw you see is versatile, just like the scroll saw itself, capable of creating beautiful and amazing works of woodworking art. But now all of the scroll saw work is done, and over at the workbench I'll remove all the patterns from the pieces and remove the waste wood and discard it, and then we can get ready for sanding. And I'm being sure to keep everything with the pieces they belong with. I didn't want to get anything mixed up. And for sanding, I opted to sand everything by hand with my little palm sander here, and I've got a high grit piece of Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper loaded into it, and I'll sand the front and back of all of the pieces. And the best way for me to sand everything was for me to put the little puzzles back together, and I sanded them all as a group, the front and back of each of the pieces here. But this is just the initial sanding, and of course you could go above and beyond and go through all of the grits when you sand your projects. But for one of the designs I wanted to go with the segmented route, so I got out my Marathon rotary tool by Bearwood Supply that Sterling Davis kindly gave me, and I've got a little sanding drum in it, and I am shaping one of the designs here, being careful not to break anything because two of the pieces are very fragile. But just again showing you options for finishing one design in several different ways. But once I get done sanding and shaping, it'll be time to get ready to add splashes of color. And I opted to use two different shades of Minwax wood stain, one darker shade here that I'm using now, and one lighter shade that I'll stain the rest of the pieces with. But I made sure all of the pieces were saturated, and then I took some paper towels to wipe off all of the excess, and I set everything aside to dry. Now we are using the lighter shade here, and I like using the lighter shade because it gives the piece a splash of color, but it doesn't mask off the natural grains and textures of the material you are staining. And if you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But we are almost done staining all of the pieces here. This does take a little bit of time, but once they were all wiped off and they were dry to the touch, it was time to begin assembly. And one of the pieces I left as intended as a little layered puzzle. For the rest of them, I assembled everything with medium grade CA glue and activator. And the CA glue basically dries and bonds instantly once you spray the activator on it, but I still like to set all of the pieces aside to make sure that the glue has dried and cured completely. After I have done the glue up process here, and I went with the segmented route, I went with this little layered shadow box design here, and for the final one I did a little base design where the layered cross could sit on a shelf, desk, or countertop. But after I was sure that the glue had dried completely and cured, it was time to give everything a finish. And for today's video, I finished everything with several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when that dried, the project was complete. And that, my friends, is going to about wrap up today's video. Hopefully you guys found it informative, and I hope in some way, shape, or form it sparked your guys' imagination for how you approach each and every scroll saw pattern and project you come across out in your garage or workshop. We took one simple design here and we finished it in 4 unique ways, one as intended and then 3 additional ways, just to show some options and versatility. I always love talking about a scroll saw's versatility, but the patterns themselves also have a lot of versatility. And I hope that this video encourages maybe some new scrollers to approach each and every scroll saw pattern they come across with an open mind, you know, with how it can be used or interpreted when they want to make the design they are trying to go for. But everything here was cut out completely over on the scroll saw. I took my time and I let the blade do the work. Individually, it took maybe 3 minutes to cut each piece out over at the scroll saw. Of course, you guys see everything in a sped up time-lapse manner. So I took my time and I let the blade do the work, and I was as loyal as I could be to the cut line as always. And because of the nature of the pattern, with it meaning to be meant as a puzzle design, I was of course making sure that the scroll saw was dialed in at a perfect 90 degrees to where all the pieces could interlock properly. But the first one we cut out, as intended, it is a little bitty puzzle here, and the book that I'll show you at the end of the video where this pattern can be found and you can try it for yourselves, is meant to be a small layered angel design, but the way I see it and interpret it is a cross design. You can see the cross there kind of in the middle, and I've always liked just saying, hey, this is a layered cross puzzle that I make when I'm doing live scroll saw demos. But as you can see, the pieces easily interlock there. This is 3/4 inch material. I don't know if it's pine. I know the other 3 that I'll hold up here are indeed pine, because I remember where I got the material I milled down for today's video. But this one here was in the scrap bin that I attached the pattern to, but it cut very like pine, and I finished it with standard Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and it really made those grains and textures pop in the piece we cut out today. And with this being the Easter and spring months, and Easter being right around the corner, I feel that you could batch a bunch of these out for maybe a Sunday school room at church. And with it being 3 pieces, you could go the religious route and interpret it as the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, with it being 3 individual interlocking pieces combining to make one piece here. So a cool option to think about. But this is how the pattern was meant to be made. But then we went to the 3-dimensional realm and I made this piece. Now this piece, the way I made it, needed an additional base for it to freestand on, and because it has that little base, it can easily freestand on a shelf, desk, or countertop of its own accord. But I just layered the pieces there and I glued them kind of spaced out like that. Thought that was a really cool visual, and again I finished it with Rust-Oleum clear gloss. Everything here was finished with that, but I stained these pieces. I stained the 3 cross pieces with a light shade of Minwax wood stain to still allow the natural shades, grains, and textures of the material to shine through. And just for some color contrast and a different look, I stained the base a darker Minwax wood stain before gluing it all together after it dried, and of course finishing it with the Rust-Oleum clear gloss. But a really cool piece here, and a great little conversation piece you could put on an office desk or in a cubicle or on a windowsill, and people could pick it up and look at it, and you can say it was cut out completely over on a scroll saw. We went the 3-dimensional route with another piece that I just thought of when I was prepping all of this, and I kept the offcut here that would have normally been waste wood. I drilled 1 pilot hole right there in the center, and again I was as loyal as I could be to the cut line, and we made this little shadow box type thing here. And you could display it this way, you know, like it's going into a tunnel, so to speak. But really cool, just a different take on it. And I stained all this with the light shade of Minwax wood stain to still allow that natural grain texture of the pine to shine through. I think pine is very underrated, and again it's relatively cheap in my area, and it's easily and readily available to where I can go pick it up and mill it down to teach you guys visually over here in video format over here on the platform. And then the 4th one we done, which is probably my favorite, either the one I'm about to show you or this one here would be my favorite that we made here today. I went the segmented route, and I used my Marathon rotary tool from Bearwood Supply. Sterling Davis gave me that tool a couple years ago, and I love having it out here in the workshop for its little versatility with the little carvers and sanding drums to go in and round over pieces like this. But I rounded over all the pieces. I put a slight curve on the waste wood there and kept it, and I cut it flush to where it can also easily freestand on a shelf, desk, or countertop. But you know, I rounded over everything to give it a nice segmented appearance there, and I stained it with 2 different shades of Minwax wood stain. Again, just to show options and versatility for each and every scroll saw project and pattern you come across. And again, in today's video, I hope it inspires you guys and sparks the imagination to think a little bit outside of the box with each and every scroll saw project and pattern you come across out in your garage or workshop. Once again, the pattern we done was very simplistic in nature, and it came from the 300 Christian and Inspirational Patterns for Scroll Saw Woodworking. This is the 2nd edition, revised and expanded, so please keep that in mind, by Mr. Tom Zieg, available at foxchapelpublishing.com, and it is indeed packed with 300 individual patterns, and they range from all skill levels for scroll saw woodworking for beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So whether you're new to scrolling or you have been scrolling as long as I have, probably going on around 20 years now, if I sit and think about it a little while, you can find a pattern in this book to easily pick up and do over at the Scroll Saw. But a really cool book, and the pattern itself came from page 128, and as you see, it does say angel puzzle there, and again, I'm just interpreting it as a layered cross design. But I hope in some way, shape, or form you guys picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit along today's journey. And if you're a new scroller, again, I hope it inspired you to try something new over at the Scroll Saw. That's about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.